Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com. TV. I am here with someone I consider a very special and extremely interesting guest, Karl Broberg, who's been the leading trainer in wins in the United States more times than I can count. I think 2014 to 2019, first in wins. That's tough to do once, let alone that many times in a row. I think 2020, he was second. 2021, we're in now. Let's see where he finishes. But to win that many races is incredible. Karl, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to be on.
You know, let me start with asking you what I think is an important question. Tell me, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color is we're getting serious right off the bat. Let's go with red.
Red. That's interesting. Now, let me ask you. How did you get started in horse racing? Because I don't think you've been around that long, and I've only been watching you a couple of years. Obviously, you get on everybody's radar when you win as much as you do, no matter what circuit it's on. How'd you get into racing?
My father was a small-time bettor that loved to go to the races at Arlington Park anytime he had a chance, and fortunately, he would take me along. In fact, I remember multiple times where he'd actually take me out of school to go to the track. So what kid's not going to jump on that opportunity when it presents itself?
You know, something that's funny, because when I was about 16 or 17, I dropped out of school. And my dad was a mutual clerk. And he said to me, "You think you're going to be hanging around in the park and playing poker and getting in trouble with all your friends? BS, you're coming to work with me every day. You'll be hanging out around my window at the track." And I was like, okay. And he used to bring me all the time. So similar introduction.
Very similar. And I also dropped out of high school in my senior year.
Wow. Okay. See, I stopped going in the ninth grade, which was the first year. But ninth grade to 10th grade, where I went to school, was an automatic promotion, but the 10th to 11th wasn't. So then I kind of, like, my goose was cooked. I had to officially drop it. How did you get into the horseman side training from going to the track and that end?
Well, that was 2 decades in the making. I was always an avid horse player. Starting from when I was young, going to Arlington Park, and then we relocated. We moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I would go to Fair Meadows, Blue Ribbon Downs when they first became pari-mutuel. Right when we moved down there, Oklahoma past pari-mutuel racing. So going to Blue Ribbon Downs, Fair Meadows, Will Rogers, Remington Park, and just I couldn't get enough of it. It's all I wanted to do. In fact, I had several stints where all I did was wager on horses to pay the bills. And that's a rough life. I applaud anybody that can do it. It was fun. In fact, when I look back at my professional life, that was probably the most satisfying and fulfilling time, but it was also by far the most stressful.
I agree 100%. I lived it, so I know exactly what you're talking about. The sacrifices that you made.
Especially if you're raising a family, there's no health care package offered for degenerate horse players.
Right. And when I did it, I'll be honest, I was fortunate and smart enough to know I can't have a family. You know what I mean? I couldn't even have really a steady girlfriend at the time, because I was committed to the racetrack, and people didn't understand, I can't miss this day or I can't miss that day, because that could be the day that makes my year or my meet or my season. And I had to be there, 100% focused and 100% in. And the sacrifices were tremendous. But like you, I loved it.
I remember that feeling as well. In fact, I almost look back at some of those memories shamefully, because the obligations as a parent that you're supposed to make, and yet here I am worried about the early daily double at Fair Meadows.
You know, it's funny because I have the same thoughts of, and same feelings of some things that I did when I was young, where I put, you know, racing and getting to the track and my gambling career, which it was a career to me, before other things that, you know, in hindsight, were more important and are more important. And, you know, those are just things I can't get back. But it's been a great life and an unbelievable ride, as you know. It's a tremendous game. It's a skill game. I think now is a lot tougher to make a living and beat the game than it was when I was doing it for a living. I think it's gotten harder. Your thoughts on that? You think it's harder now than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago?
It's the game is always changing, and in the past, from a gambling perspective, you're always changing your style and having to adapt, whether it be a different meet that you're playing or how you're trying to exploit the pools. But fortunately, I'm too busy training these days to even think about that side of it too much. Now it's just the occasional leisure gambling.
Right. Now, let me ask you, how many horses do you have?
We have 150 in training.
Wow. And how many different tracks are you at?
At the most, we're at 6 tracks. We're currently at 5.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any horses at Saratoga?
Yes, we do. In fact, I'm headed up there on Saturday to watch myself get drilled in the Amsterdam.
Hey, Saratoga is the graveyard of favorites for a reason.
Yeah, well, we're going to need all the luck we can get there. I did make a claim that I was real excited about there today. We claimed the winner out of the second.
Okay.
And we won a 15-way shake, which generally I hate those kinds from a claiming perspective. I don't like horses dropping in class where everybody in the world is in on them.
Right.
But Saratoga is a different animal.
Well, right, exactly. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody's trying to win. People, you know, trying.
There's no place.
Take a little edge.
There's no place people would rather get their picture taken.
Right, right. So you brought it up. Let me ask you, what that you're willing to share publicly, and I understand there's a lot.
I'm an open book.
Yeah, but you know, I don't want to get into your competitive edge in the claiming game. But what are some of the things you look for in a horse that you're going to claim or considering claiming? And let me ask you this: when you claim, do you have a race or a spot in mind? And is it usually moving a horse up or moving a horse down? Because today, a lot of people like to claim for 16, and because of the purses, well, I'll claim for 16, I'll run for 12.5, and if I lose the horse and I win the purse, I'm out. What's your philosophy on the claiming game?
Well, my favorite angle is claiming horses that haven't knocked out that first level allowance condition. I've claimed well over 100 that I claimed for a nickel, and then in their subsequent start they won the A other than, which depending on the track, that's 30,000-40,000.
Right.
But you're always, when you're claiming one, you try to have a spot in mind. You're often trying to exploit conditions, or you just think there's something different that you can do that's going to give you a spot. But a lot of times, depending on the meet, let's say you're claiming at Oaklawn, you're just hoping to be able to run back right in that same spot, and you're happy with it, and the purse level supports it.
Right, right. I think it's pretty safe to say you're a big fish in a lot of small ponds. Okay. You win an incredible.
It doesn't feel like it right now, but I used to be.
Yeah, you still are. Statistically, you still are. What are you trying to get into? And I think you are, but you know, are you trying to get into the biggest circuits? Get different type of horses?
I don't have a choice but to make an effort to do that, which I've seen the handwriting on the wall for years now, but
Right.
our sport is going to ultimately be reduced to a bunch of boutique meets where it returns to the sport of kings.
Right.
So I'm going to have to work to establish myself at those sort of tracks, because I'm not certain about the future of many of the tracks that are currently going today.
You and I are on the same page with that as well. I think that less is more is going to be the reality of what we're facing in the industry. And then, well, what do you think are the main? I mean, there are so many issues in the industry, and there are so many different opinions. I've got some. What do you think are the main issues that are causing the problems in the sport right now?
Obviously, the affordability aspect, just the general cost. If anybody has any sense, it's not anything that someone's going to go into thinking, okay, I can make money at this.
Right.
Those days are gone. They exist sometimes in some areas, but you have to be incredibly sharp and very diligent. But for the most part, you're buying a dream. If you're breaking even in this industry as an owner, you're doing well. And I'm blessed, and I have plenty of owners that have been able to do just that. And that's why, unfortunately, I own half my stable, because I want to keep everyone gainfully employed. It's not because I want to own that many horses. Right. But golly, it's just so hard. And then when you have our sport needs to work to educate people on the difference between a therapeutic overage and cheating.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And
I was going to ask you about the difference.
And I'm going to get bashed for this, but it just, and how you go about doing that, I don't know. But when you see, I'll even use the Baffert Derby as an example. I mean, really dumb therapeutic overage, inexcusable, especially when racing at that level. But we have to discern between that and what went on with Navarro and stuff like that. It is different. And I'm not saying that Baffert doesn't have an edge that others don't have. I mean, there's a fine line, but we have to work to educate the betting public on the difference between the two. But as horse players, we're so jaded to begin with, we need an excuse. So I don't think that's ever going to happen.
You know, it's funny. You and I think a lot alike, and I didn't really expect that. But I've always said that there's a significant difference in therapeutic overage, and the guidelines for therapeutic overages are so confusing, and the withdrawal times are so tough to keep track of. It is different, and I agree. I don't say it's right, and I don't say it's excusable, but it's different than what was going on or allegedly going on with Service and Navarro, and some other bonds. I think there is a distinct difference, and I think you treated that.
What forced me into training was my unwillingness as an owner to pay ridiculous vet bills on horses that were sound, that didn't need work. But there's a mentality that goes on in way too many horsemen that have done this stuff their entire life, that you feel compelled, well, this barn's doing this, and this, and they're giving them this, and this. And we have more of a minimalist approach. Unless they need something, you're better off not doing anything. It was shocking as an owner, opening up some of the vet bills that I did. And I corresponded with these trainers, and they're telling me the horse is sound, but yet you open a monthly vet bill that's $1,000, $1,300. And you're like, why? You said this horse is down. What are you possibly think you're doing that's helping this horse with ridiculous supplements and just all sorts of nonsense? It's crazy.
Now, let me ask you this. How frustrating is it to you, who knows that you run your barn on a minimal approach of vet work, okay? And when people, because, you know, you win at a high percentage or you win a lot of races, you know, and now because a lot of bettors and people feel that Service and Navarro were indicted and, oh, we were right about them. So now they think they're right about everybody who's got a high percentage or wins a lot. When people throw that kind of shade at you, knowing how you run your barn, is it frustrating? Do you just let it go off you? Or
I quit caring about that a long time ago. Unfortunately, my win percentage the last couple of years, I don't get as much of that as I used to. I actually wish that I would, because it would be more back to 25%. But you can't let stuff like that bother you. I mean, first off, if you're talking about people on social media, I mean, they have nothing better to do anyways. But the proof's in the pudding. I mean, we won 4,000 plus races now. I've had a list of transgressions. I've had therapeutic overages. The bulk of my rulings were, and I was able to slow that down. In the beginning, I was just overwhelmed, and we made a bunch of careless mistakes. But fortunately now, that's not an issue. And hell, I've won 4,000 races without ever having a suspension. So I think that speaks for itself, because we go to the test barn more than anybody else outside of Steve Asmussen.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Let me ask you this. Let's say, and this is a tough one, I think. Anyway, let's say I'm made tomorrow to commissioner a race, okay, which I think is something that we need some sort of central governing body. And I call you up and I say, hey, Karl, from a trainer perspective, what can I do? What can we do as a sport to weed out or get rid of the cheaters? And I'm talking about the cheaters, not the medication overages, because I think we can figure out how to deal with that. But how do we get rid of the cheaters and promote the sport in a positive way?
I've got a couple of ideas on this. So some of the tracks have begun to implement them. I wish everybody would. First and foremost, I mean, look at the way we're communicating right now. It's so easy. Just put cameras up in every barn.
I've said the same thing on videos. You and I think a lot alike, man.
That's first and foremost. One of the approaches that would be met with a lot more resistance that I like is all the track veterinarians, because you're unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do away and completely change the way that practice is done. Because what I'd like to see is the racetrack veterinarian be someone employed by the commission. But that's never going to happen within the sport. So how about a dispensary from which the veterinarians that work at a particular track have to purchase everything that's on their truck right there from that dispensary that's sold by that particular racing commission. That's it, nothing else.
You know, it's funny. Those are two of the points. I did a video with Jeff Metz, who does a lot of videos with me. He's a trainer in Southern California. And those are the things I said to him. I said, off the bat, everything's got to come from a central pharmacy on the grounds. And every stall's got to have a camera in it that's monitored by an outside third party, and everything's got to be recorded. So, I mean, we're on the same page there. What about HISA? You think HISA is going to work, have any positive impact, or just exercise in futility?
I think it's set up for failure for a multitude of reasons. first off, because they can't get everyone behind it. There's so many people fighting it. It's so vague on everything about it is vague. How it's going to be funded. Is it going to be on the back of the horse players? Is it going to be on the back of the owners? If they were able to take over it and do it right and eliminate all the state racing commissions, then I could see how that could work. But that's not going to happen. These states aren't going to give up all that and just hand it over to one entity. That would be the only chance for it to be successful in my eyes, is if that's all you had to deal with.
Yeah, I can't totally disagree. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I think it's a move in the right direction, because I think we at least need uniformity in the testing from state to state, and the thresholds and things like that. And I think that there's a lot of confusion and a lot of issues with that. So I'm hoping at least it brings uniformity there and makes it easier.
But how do we even know that they're going to change it? The medication rules, where it is just one rule that's in all states. I don't know that.
I don't either, but I'm cautiously optimistic that they know that that's kind of what needs to be done. We need to have uniformity in the rules if we're going to get anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. I'll say I'm cautiously optimistic, but even that's probably a stretch. I just don't know how that plays out.
Now,
and the more you get government in anything, ugh.
Yeah, that's usually the way, and I agree. But this is something that we really brought on ourselves. I mean,
as an industry, there's no doubt.
Yeah. No, we failed as an industry to self-police and self-regulate. I mean, there's no question there. So it was inevitable. Something was going to happen like that. Now, moving to something else. Okay, we both love betting. I've seen you post, okay, some monster tickets, man. I mean, I don't get impressed by other bettors often. Okay, Tommy Hammond Masses has managed to impress me a little bit. I used to be a big pick six player. He hit one for $1 million in Hong Kong. That's impressive. My biggest one is 545,000 at Saratoga. So he outdid me there. You post some monster tickets, man. I mean, how do you find time to handicap?
I quit doing that because of the wrath of social media.
They
obviously nobody's posting their losers except for bad beats and stuff. But when I do like to take a stand when I feel strongly about a race and get after it.
Right.
And predominantly all my life, I'm a big win bettor, and I love daily doubles. But this game has changed so much. Now you've got all these exotics and God, don't get me started on the jackpot wagers. I mean, it's just the ruination of wagering on horses.
I don't get involved in it myself. Every once in a while, when there's a mandatory, I'll play a little bit just for the heck of it.
Yeah, but what I find is even the people that say that, so often it's not true, and they are playing it on non-mandatory payout days. But
not me. Not me.
Well, I since you grounded out for years gambling, I actually believe you. But when a lot of people say that, I'm like, yeah, sure.
No, I don't. And let me tell you, I welcomed back Naira's $1 pick six because I prefer the $2 one, because I think it separates the men from the boys, and it forces you to handicap and take a stand, not like this 20 cents nonsense, which I like I said, I don't get involved in. And even on the mandatory days when the pools are huge, I'll just for the fun of it, I'll put in a small ticket just to see how I did, but I don't get too involved with that. But the $1 one, I don't like it as much as the $2 one. And I think that part of the problem is with the 50-cent pick five as part of it, and the 50-cent pick, it dilutes that pool. You know what I mean? It's just not
100%.
there's not enough money in it for me to really, do it the way that I used to.
The pick six at Oaklawn back when it was the classics, the $2. Right. I mean, to me, that was
a great bet. It was a great
bet. And why we've abandoned that for the silliness of the jackpot wagers, I will never understand.
I tell people that are close to me that that know a lot more about my betting than people that are not close to me. But I said, listen, there's really 2 days a year that I like to bet the pick six. I like to bet the $2 Breeders' Cup pick six, and I like to bet the $2 one on Derby Day when the pool is huge.
I couldn't agree more, and it just goes to show what so many of these racetracks think of horse players to offer all that stuff. It shows that they think we're just stupid fucking degenerates.
And well, but again. And this is not me, because I'm probably one of the most disciplined horse players you'll ever meet. Okay. I can go to the track with a pocket full of money, and if I don't like anything, I don't bet. Okay. But when I bet, my philosophy is when I'm right, I want to get paid. I want to make it count. But the bottom line is most horse players do not have that mentality. They're betting every track, every circuit, every race, running to make every bet possible. And they have no chance of winning.
I've fallen in that trap before, just seeking the action. I've been there.
Yeah, no, and it's a recipe to lose. You can't survive that. You know what I mean? You can become a millionaire if you're a billionaire doing that. That's the only thing that could happen. But most bettors don't. They will bet on anything that the tracks put out, and that's a big part of the problem. If people stuck to the good bets and the right bets and the handle dropped on these Mickey Mouse wagers that they offer, I think tracks would have to be conscious of it and put out the right bets and a better product. But that's something that we'll never collectively do.
But we see time and time again where there are specific tracks. Sam Houston comes to mind, where they have a very low takeout. I mean, incredibly low takeout. And it doesn't catch fire the way that it should.
Right.
So it just goes to show that, and I understand the big tracks and the handle, and that's what people look at. But if you're a serious horse player and you're not thinking about takeout or being price conscious when it comes to that, you're not taking it as serious as you'd like to think that you are.
You're 100% right, and a lot of people. It amazes me when I hear people say things like, well, takeout really doesn't matter. If you win, you win, and they just don't get it, and they're never going to get it. I stopped even trying to explain to people how important all these things are when you're up against, sharp money in the pool and takeout and everything else. You just,
I immediately tune.
I lost you.
I'm sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
I immediately tune out any horse player that I'm trying to have a serious conversation with, and then they talk about the takeout not really being that important. I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Right. Let me ask you this: how tough is it? Okay, and I imagine very, because when I was betting professionally, lack of a better term, I really wasn't doing anything else. I was 100% focused. How is it that you're able, to balance training that many horses?
Well, that's just it. I really don't anymore. I'm not able to do both anymore. Now it's just fun time when I'm there, and it's on a track that I've already been handicapping for, whether it be for claiming purposes or to see how I look in a race.
Right.
And then as a fan of the sport, I'm always going to look at the big days. In fact, that was the last wager that I posted on Twitter was my bets on Mandolin. Oh, that hurt the Derby.
You got Mandolin. Okay, yeah. That was a tough loss.
I was
going to ask you this anyway. What is, and you mentioned it, what's the worst beat you ever took?
Oh, you're always remembering the most recent one.
Okay, so go ahead.
So the most recent one that comes to mind was a Saturday at Saratoga in the maiden special weight. Mark Cassidy horse, second time out. I just, there was no way I thought that horse could lose. And he went off at 4-1. And it was my largest wager of the year. And it was such a bizarre race. He ran in spurts and he was up close and then dropped hopelessly out of it. And even though he wound up running third, it was obvious that he was way the best horse in that race.
Was that this meet?
Yeah, it was this Saturday.
Volcanic, I think.
Volcanic, there you go.
There you go. Okay, yeah. Tough, bad trip. Mine, believe it or not, if there's one race I can't get over the beat of, and it's amazing, and you're going to understand this as a bettor. I won $36,000. I hit the pick six with Awesome Again in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but I was also alive in the pick six with Swain and had a bunch of pick threes into Swain. And I don't remember what year that was, but I still can't, and I know he's a great rider. You might still
be counting the cash.
Right, exactly. But I don't, and I know he's a great rider, but I've never been able to get my arms around and understand what Frankie Dettori was doing with the left hand down the entire stretch. He finished the race near the outside rail. I don't know. And the two times that I met him, I wanted to ask him, but I didn't because I figured it's probably a sore subject for him. But that's mine. I mean, it's a long time. Most of them I can turn the page on, but that one just sticks with me because it was big money.
I've learned to I try to erase them from my memory. If the one that comes to mind was, gosh, I'm going to date myself with this, Mia Farah in the Breeders' Cup Sprint against the boys.
Right.
And I got Bob Baffert.
30 clues. 30 clues got you on the wide.
I was all in on Mia Farah.
Oh. And
she was a huge price.
I remember I was at that Breeders' Cup. That was at Gulfstream Park.
Yes.
I was there. I was at
really?
I watched that race on the apron at Gulfstream Park. I had a table in the restaurant. I walked out. I watched that race on the apron. And the thing that I remember about it, nobody knew. I think that was Baffert's first Breeders' Cup win. Nobody even knew who he was. And the thing that I remember is that I'll never forget that even with all the crowd noise standing on the apron, I think Eddie De La Houssaye rode 30 sloughs.
He
did. As they were coming down the stretch, I heard him yelling. He was going, yeah, as they passed me at the 16th hole. And I couldn't even tell who won. I knew Mia Farah, who I didn't have, was on the lead. And I'm like, how is this really going to beat me? And he actually got up. So I know that was a heartbreaker, man. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, and I just remember at that stage of my life, that was just going to be a monstrous score that I was going to have a hard time ever. As I'm talking to you, I'm bringing it up.
Oh,
she went off at 13-1, got beat in neck by 30 sloughs. 1992.
92. Okay, I moved to Florida in 90, and I was at that Breeders' Cup in 92. Wow, yeah.
That was the bad beat that I probably remember most.
Yeah, that was a tough.
But the one about Volcanic was more important to future players because that horse has to be a bet back next time out.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's on. I have the thing on my website, tracking tips, where I put horses in trouble trips and whatnot. And he's on mine, and probably everybody else's because a lot.
Yeah, he'll be 4-5 the next time instead of 4-1.
Yeah, he should have won. Those are tough when you know. Two ways I hate losing the most. I can take a photo. When I lose it, I lose it. But I hate losing because of a bad trip. And I hate beating myself, like looking at a race after and say, how did I let this horse by? Or, you know, I look at that like beating yourself when you just didn't bet right or didn't do your homework right and let something get by you. You know, it's tough enough when you don't make those mistakes.
Keeping your mental psyche is a huge part of any, forget just successful horse player, any player that just enjoys doing it on a regular basis that wants to have a chance of paying their way doing what they love.
Let me ask you this, and people say that I'm wrong. I guesstimate. okay, that about 4 or 5% of the people that play this game regularly actually grind out a profit or make a profit or make a living. Because I differentiate between the two. When I played for a living, you know what I mean? I didn't just have to grind out a little profit. I had to make money to sustain myself, you know? And I like to live good. So you understand, you know what I mean? But you think on more people say, no, maybe 1 or 2%. I think 5% is a fair number, no?
I would bet the under all day long on that.
See, everybody says that. I guess that's
no, I would bet the under. I believe that there's a point it might have been that high, but I would bet the under in today's racing world.
What's your take on how much of an advantage the computer players have over the everyday player, and what do you think would happen if we took all of that money that they put in out of the pools? I mean, I think that they're helping keeping us going on life support with all the money they pump in, despite the edge that they might have. What is your take on it?
I'm not versed enough in it to know, but I think the numbers would be astounding if all that money were to come out. I just don't know enough about it, but golly, it just seems so shady and so sketchy. And it's one more thing. You add that with what the computer players do along with the jackpot wagers and stuff. And it's like, God damn, how does a horse player have a chance in today's current environment?
I understand it's tough. What are you doing to take the game to the next level? How are you trying to get those owners that have people going to the sales and the 2-year-olds and you know, how are you looking to get to the next level?
Ask me that question when I become successful with it, because to this point, I just haven't had much luck with that, or I would have known half my stable. But I feel as long as we just continue to grind and do everything right, then those opportunities will present themselves at such point and start to get at the tracks where you're more likely to garner that sort of attention.
How much of that do you think? I mean, obviously, when you're first in wins as many years as you are, everybody's got to know who Karl Broberg is, okay? They might not know about you, but they got to know this guy wins a ton of races. How much of it do you think is horsemanship and winning those races? Because you're putting up those numbers, so nobody can knock you there. How much of it is being a businessman or a salesman or knowing how to schmooze with those people to get those kind of owners?
I wouldn't want to diminish anything that any of those trainers have done that has got them those type of horses or been able to put them on that sort of stage. It's just one of those deals. If one of those owners comes your way, then if you can train, you're going to look like a superstar. I can think of plenty of talented trainers that have been there before and have had that kind of stock, and then you lose the owner, and then all of a sudden you return to being a mere mortal.
Yeah, this is true. Who would you say were the best ones you've had? High Tie, I'm a Discreet Lady, maybe Humble in Love.
High Tie was for those couple years, he was the fastest horse in the country. Unfortunately, he could only sustain it for about a half a mile, but he was just incredible to be around. Just freakishly fast,
right?
Freakishly fast. I remember we got him coming off of a layoff, and an owner called and said, "Hey, do you want to take a horse for me?" Just a random call. I didn't know the fellow at all. And then I remember the first time we run the horse, he won by nearly 20 lengths at Delta. In fact, the track announcer said he was in a different zip code. And I just looked around at my buddies and I said, I don't know what a real horse is, because I've never had one before, but that's as close as I've ever had.
Wow.
It was a really fun ride with him. Hunk of Burning Love was incredibly satisfying, claiming him for 32,000 and then doing what he's done for us. But you hope that you're going to get the next one. I'm a Discreet Lady. You mentioned her. That was one that we bought at the sale for, I don't know, about 30,000. And so we got to that she's probably one of the most satisfying ones, just because from day one, it was all under our care.
Now, let me ask you another thing. I'm an animal lover and an animal advocate, and I often get a little conflicted about the sport that I love, because I think you're only as strong as your weakest link, and everybody doesn't treat their horses the way that I think they should be treated. Okay, how bad of a problem is it with people running sore horses and not taking care of the horses? From your perspective, how much does that goes on? And I ask you because you claim so many, so you're taking horses from other barns, so you know that there's a certain number of horses you take that just aren't getting the kind of love and care that you're going to give them. So is that as big a problem as I'm afraid it is? Am I worried too much?
I don't think it's as big a problem as you might perceive it to be. Fortunately, we're blessed in, I think, virtually every racing jurisdiction now where horses get examined by a state vet prior to running. I will say rehoming horses becomes a full-time job. I mean, there are always going to be sore horses there at every level. But it's just one of those things where with horsemanship and time, and then you just hope that as an owner, you hope you've employed a trainer that's able to tell you, hey, it's time to stop on this horse, whether it be permanently or just give the horse a vacation.
I'm glad you said what you did a second ago, because you said time. And I believe a lot of horses need time. You know what I mean? You got to, there's no off season that's dedicated to be an off season.
Right.
But you can't expect them to run, as much as they do and as hard as they do without giving them a break now and then. I think the key to success is being able and having the kind of owners who are on board with letting you back off on a horse and send him to the farm and he's up and not, have that mentality that, hey, if they're not running, I'm not earning money. And
Right. Oh, the economics of it, they make it incredibly tough for a cheaper horse, but you just have to do it. If you when they start to sour on you, you have to give them time. And I'm blessed. I bought that farm that's very close to Delta Downs, and it was very instrumental in us continuing to grow and improve our performance to have that at my disposal.
So you're conscious of that. You have a farm. Are you involved in rehoming and trying to
rehoming horses has become a full-time job. It's part of the sport that people don't like to talk about, but rehoming horses, it's a full-time job. Fortunately, now that I've trained for 12 years, you develop a bunch of networks where you know that, okay, these people are always good. I can help them out when they need a horse. But no, it's a never-ending process.
Yeah, it really is. I'm involved in rescue, so I know it is a full-time job, and it just never ends. And there's always another one that needs help. You know what I mean? Just
very true.
You can never get to them all.
Very, very true.
Carl, it's really been great talking to you. I don't want to take too much of your time. You're a fascinating guy. You really are. You're a gentleman. I appreciate that. And we think a lot alike. We're on the same page about a lot of issues, and I really didn't expect that. I didn't necessarily not expect it. I just didn't know. But I don't talk to a lot of people that are on the same page as me about a lot of issues like that. And I think it's a little
a lot of it just boils down to common sense, and there's some changes that need to be made within the sport, but there's an unwillingness to, and let's hope that HISA becomes the cure-all that we hope and we need it to be.
I think that we both know that it's not going to be that. I'm just hoping it's the introduction. I think I hope it's the introduction to that. You know what I mean? I hope it's the introduction.
A good first step in the right direction.
Right. You know, it's just crazy game we play. We love it, but it's a crazy game. I think it definitely needs help. So I'm rooting for HISA or HISA or whatever it is. But I don't know how it's going to go, you know, and like you said, the funding becomes an issue. I don't know what they're going to, you know, raise takeout, charge it to the horsemen, charge it to the owners, charge it to the bettors. I don't know how they're going to fund it or where it's going to come. And my understanding is that some states can opt in or opt out. They don't have to become a part of it. So
you know more than I do, because I didn't realize that was even on the table at this point.
I think that there's a way that states don't have to participate. Don't quote me. I'm not an expert on it, but I've been told that by people who know more about it than I do. So
just let us know what the rules are, and we go from there until the rules get changed.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many claiming rules have been changed in an effort to slow us down over the years.
Yeah.
If you could go into the Hall of Fame for rules being changed, this guy would be there.
Really? So
yeah,
you're responsible for them changing some rules?
Mm-hmm.
Which ones? I know you got a lot of colorful stories too. Like I remember, didn't you get banned from Remington last year or something like that?
I did lose my stalls at Remington last year.
It was that permanent or just for last year?
It was just last year. I'm happy to be back there. Their Twitter sense of humor just didn't jive with mine, but it was a learning experience. Okay. So now you guys get the G-rated version of me on Twitter.
Okay. I understand that. I sometimes have to, and I stay off it a lot now. Okay. And I got to tell you something. You said I'm the king of retweets, but I got to tell you, most of them are from my website, because I have two accounts. My personal, I'm retweeting my website stuff because nobody else does. I got to have at least one fan myself.
I was just in a trolling mood, and that was low hanging fruit, so I went ahead and grabbed it.
It's all right. No, it was funny. I laughed at it, man. But I'm saying, it's my website. I gotta retweet it.
100%. But no, when I get trolled on there, I laugh. No, I enjoy the ones that are witty. It's some of the ignorant ones I have no use for, but as long as there's some wit put into it, I'm in.
Yeah, I get a lot of that. I get my share up, but I've learned to either not even look at it. Most of the people I think are complete morons. I just mute them and I don't even see it. You know what I mean? Unless
right.
Hey, so and so said something about you, or this guy said something. I'm like,
who cares?
Right?
Who cares?
It doesn't matter. Most of them, you know, just by the tickets they post, they're losers anyway. You know what I mean? So
right.
Hey, great talking to you, man. I really
enjoyed the time. Let's do it again after I have a big 6 score or something to brag about.
Do it after you have a score, or when you get a nice graded stake win at one of these major circuits, which is going to happen.
There you go. And in the meantime, until I get that graded stakes win, I can tout you on Mark Saint tonight in a maiden 5 at Evangeline. That's 12 to 1 in the morning line going in race 6.
I love it from Karl.
All right,
my man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Enjoyed it. Bye.
Nobody does it better.